Welcome into another edition of Valpo Sports Night. I'm Drew Taylor. Joining me today is Matthew Barnard. He's the business director at WVUR, and Jeff Larson. He's a sports broadcaster at WVUR. Guys, let's jump into some Valpo topics here. The volleyball team has suffered a couple tough losses recently, most notably at IUPUI. Will they be able to overcome some key injuries and go deep into the Horizon League Championship?
Well, for me, I'm slightly going to be pushing on the panic button because if you think about this, they've had some very, very tough losses. They're 1-4 in 5-set matches, most notably against number one ranked, we're right now in the league, Milwaukee.
Yep.
They had a 2-0 lead going into the third set, and they lose 3 straight. Then you host Cleveland State. You're up 2-1 in sets. They come back and they lose. Most notably, Green Bay. They had a 12-7 lead in the 5th set, and they get outscored 8-1. So for me, I'm slightly pushing on the panic button too. But also, if you take a look at their schedule, here's what they have left. They got to go to Butler, to Cleveland State, and they have to host Milwaukee, which is also Senior Day. So also, if you look at the standings, only 2 games separate third and sixth place. So if the Crusaders fall off, they could fall from a 3rd seed all the way down to a 6th seed and face most notably the host Milwaukee.
Right. You're right, Jeff. The Crusaders have a lot of tough competition heading their way. These teams are also scrapping to get into the tournament as well, and they're not going to lay down for Valpo. And again, the injuries that they have to overcome too. Doom's just recently back, and now Katie Britton again. And Valpo's had a tough time in this tournament as well, as it is when they've had better years than this. So it'll be a tough time for them to see if they can actually make it that far.
You mentioned Dooms and Britton both have ankle sprains.
Right.
Dooms has a high ankle sprain. That's tough. I mean, that can be a nagging injury the rest of the year. And Katie Britton has been out the last 3 matches with an ankle sprain of herself. So who knows? Those are your outside hitters right there, and then you lose a lot of it. It's going to test the depth of Coach Karen Avery's team.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and again, the team needs to focus on who exactly is going to be performing these big roles with the interchangeable roles that are coming up with players going down and things like that. A leader needs to emerge, and exactly have we seen that so far? Right. Maybe not.
There's not that Angie Porcher, for example, of 2 years ago or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but this team is very, very deep. So it's
That's
again,
true.
Yeah, they're very deep. So anyone can actually step up and fulfill that leadership role. I mean, you see, Morgan Biles been very consistent. Ellen Vandenberg's been stepping up. Mary Dent as well. So definitely a lot of players can step up and fulfill all those roles that are somewhat missing.
A lot of road games the rest of the year. It'll be very interesting to see if the Crusaders can make a push, through those Horizon League championships. Guys, let's switch gears a little bit now. Let's preview the women's basketball team. Who's your standout this year, and give me just your overall prediction.
Tabitha Gerardo is probably going to have to be my standout, of course. She had a great freshman season and was able to kind of play through the mediocrity that was that team down the stretch last year. I expect her to break out and be a big performer this year for Valpo. As well for the team, the past few years there have been a few, rough seasons there, but the fortunate side of that is a lot of the young talent on this team has been able to get experience almost instantly, and maybe this is the year where that young experience turns into they get it together and they field a better quality of play on the hardwood, and they kind of pick it up after they've had a few off seasons.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on Tabitha Gerardo. But one other player I'm going to mention is Betsy Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, she was tabbed, I think, 2nd preseason All Horizon League.
Our captain too.
Yeah, and our captain too. So Betsy's going to have to really step up as well. Plus, from my standpoint, I think where we lacked last year was depth underneath the basket. Sure. So I'm expecting a lot out of Stephanie Langley. So use her big body and frame to bully all those girls down below underneath the basket.
Okay, now a question that I think has been on everyone's mind. Coach Freeman has not really made the adjustment from the Mid-Con, back when the Valpo was in the Mid-Continental, to the Horizon League. Homer Drew did it, and we hope that Bryce Drew can continue to do it.
Yep.
It seems like Coach Freeman has not. Is this his last year? If he doesn't perform, he doesn't get above 500, let's say, does he make it another year at Valpo?
I think he'll be around for another year, maybe 2, because again, I mean, women's basketball head coaches, they don't have all the pressure that you say that the men's do.
Sure.
Because you think about it, say for instance, if Coach K at Duke, if he has like 2 bad seasons, you can expect him to be gone. Where if you're expecting like in the Valpo, where if you're kind of in like a rebuilding session, again, you're not going to have all that pressure on you. So
Sure.
he's not. So he doesn't really have anything to lose. I give him probably 3 more years at the most.
Yeah, I'm going to take the counter argument to that and say that if the talent that Freeman has brought in to replace some of the exiting talent from a regime ago maybe, that he could be out at the end of the season. Again, like I said, you've seen that a lot of these seasons have gotten the younger kids on the floor instantly, and you'd hope that the talent that he brings in is able to rise to the challenge, especially if they have all that experience. You'd hope that once you get your younger players playing time that they're able to achieve their potential, but if not, there could be changes coming. Who knows?
One more thing to kind of wrap up this argument. Don't sleep on Ashley Varnar. She was injured all last year. She was the leader on this team when she went down last year. Didn't play a single game, so we'll see if that would help. They needed a leadership presence last year, that's for sure. But it'll be very interesting to see. Hopefully a bounce-back year for them.
Yeah.
Now, guys, let's do the same with the men's basketball team. How will Bryce Drew fare in his first season at head coach?
Well, I think Bryce is going to step right in. We talked about, or you heard about at least, when the switch was made over the summer about how Bryce was a really good recruiting presence with the fact that he's had the NBA experience and he's only about maybe 15 years older than some of the guys he's recruiting. There's a difference there between when Homer would be doing the recruiting as well, and maybe we're able to step into communities and situations where we normally wouldn't be able to with our recruiting presence. So from that aspect, I think that Bryce is going to up the ante on this program.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think too. He's definitely going to up the ante. But they have a tough non-conference schedule. When you start off, you have to go to Arizona and to Ohio State. That is going to be a tough test for this team. Plus, they only have like one senior on this team. So if they perform very, very well, imagine what they're going to be like next season. But as for me, I have them tabbed like I would say 5th in the conference because you know the usual Butler, Cleveland State, and Milwaukee are obviously going to be ahead of them. So, but for them, it's really going to be interesting to see how Coach Bryce Drew will actually do in his first season.
To me, I have them in 3rd because I think Cleveland State lost a lot of their key guys to graduation, obviously, but it'll be very interesting to see. Who's your standout player this year, though?
Jay Harris, by and far.
Okay.
I'm really excited to see. Jay had a great freshman season, and it's going to be very exciting to see exactly what the next step is for Jay Harris. I think it's going to be a great year for Jay.
Clearly the better shooting point guard in our backcourt. But
Yeah, I definitely like Jay Harris, but I'm going to go with Ryan Brokoff because I mean he's a tall guy. He can shoot from the outside. I mean that's the type of guy who you want to taking your big shots when it's crunch time.
this weekend, the men will have their exhibition game on Saturday, and the women will have it the following Tuesday. So get ready, Valpo fans. It's time for basketball. So that'll be a lot of
season's
fun.
coming.
It's excellent.
Yep. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick timeout, but when we come back, we'll talk about MLB free agency as well as the pursuit for Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dick Vitale of ESPN, and I'm on VUTV. It's awesome, baby, with a capital A.
I'm Connor Lott, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Nick Lindeke, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm President Heckler, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Jeff Lang, General Manager of WVUR, and I'm on VUTV.
We're the Career Center, and we're on VUTV.
I'm Matthew Barnard, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Vince Liuzzo, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Becky Venema, and I'm on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Professor Powell.
And I'm Lauren Whitney Gottbreath.
And you're on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Michael Graves, and I'm on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jim, and I'm on VUTV.
We're VuVox, and we're on VUTV.
Welcome back into Valpo Sports Night. Again, joined by Matt Barnard, Business Director at WVUR, and Jeff Larson, Sports Broadcaster for WVUR. Guys, now some national topics. The MLB offseason is vastly approaching. Where will the big names land like Prince Fielder and Albert Pujols?
Well, there's an interesting offseason coming up, of course, for these two marquee players. And it'll be interesting to see a few other things as well, not just the two big first basemen, but what happens with C.J. Wilson. Sure. He's been pitching in a market where he's had success, but he hasn't had he's not maybe your first guy you think of when you think of ace. And also, is CeCe going to opt out of his contract?
Right,
and
that's a big one.
maybe even with Chicago, third base is a tough position to fill. Chicago's going to have a need for it. The Cubs will, and I'm sure other teams will as well. Even teams in need of a bat or DH. What's going to happen with Ramos Ramirez? What kind of money will he command? I don't know. I think that we're going to see something really interesting happen here with Pujols and Fielder. The teams that would need them aren't necessarily the teams that can pay for them.
Right.
You might even see something happen where maybe they transpose teams, or maybe at least Fielder come down to St. Louis.
The teams that have the money don't really need them. You look at the Red Sox and the Yankees; they have Adrian Gonzalez and Mark Teixeira respectively. So.
Right. and their DH spots are pretty full up, and you wouldn't pay at least for Pujols to be your DH. Okay. Also, where exactly brings up talking about the Cubs is they may or may not have a hole at first base in this offseason. Carlos Pena had a great year on the field and in the clubhouse, but you'd rather obviously have a player on your team like Pujols or Fielder than Carlos Pena. They're able to produce more, and they have a longer track record of success. So my point is that, and again, Fielder has health issues. He's a big dude, and he's getting close to 30 years old. How long of a contract do you give him for how much money? And yes, Pujols putting on a clinic in the World Series, but he had that shoulder injury, and you don't like to say it, but the past 2 years for Pujols have been great years for a baseball player, but they've been down years for Albert Pujols. So how long do you give those guys contracts for?
Yeah, not only that, just to continue on your Pujols, how much is he going to be asking for if the Cardinals still want him back? Because not only that, because you've already invested $170, $180 million in a Matt Holliday. So is he going to be asking for let's say A-Rod money? Right. So you're going to have to wonder about that. But also, going back to the Cubs, now that Theo is in office, who does he want now at his first base? Does he want Carlos Pena, or does he bring back Derek Lee? That's the other question that you got to think about too. Also, David Ortiz, he's a free agent as well. Is he going to come back to Boston, or could he jump ship and go to the Yankees? That's the other thing too. Plus, look at all the pitchers that you have. You have Mark Burley, Scott Kazmir, and Roy Oswalt to go along with CC Sabathia, because Sabathia could opt out, so no, he could be asking for more money as well. Then you look on the Phillies side, like I said, Roy Oswalt. Also, Brad Lidge is out there. Jimmy Rollins is out there. So is Raul Ibanez. So if the Phillies are still going to want to make that World Series run, they have to figure out, okay, what do we really need? What did we do last season that we need to improve on in order to get that World Series that everyone expected out of them?
That's a really interesting point you bring up about the Phillies, Jeff, because they made that title run in 08, and they went back the year after that. But you see, they've had that core there for a lot of years, and now that core is starting to get older, and it's started to break up.
Ryan Howard might not even be ready for spring training.
Exactly. He blew out his ACL the last play of the season, literally. What are the measures the Phillies have taken to replace those guys? Do they have more outfielders to replace, guys like Raul Ibanez, and do they have a shortstop capable of filling the role that Jimmy Rollins had? I mean, Jimmy Rollins arguably was the face of that franchise because he was like the first player they developed, and then they built around him. Do they have, and of course Ruben Amaro Jr., the general manager there, done a great job. We really haven't heard about what their farm system is like, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly, especially with the movie coming out and the Theo moving over, about all this stuff about player development and things like that, and stocking your farm system. What is the Phillies farm system, and how strong is it? At what cost for getting that core has their farm system suffered?
And
maybe
going back to the Pujols thing, I know we touched on him a lot, but he's asking primarily for 10 years, $200 million. Do you give anybody that amount of money? I know he's hot in the playoffs and specifically the World Series, but he's old too. Like Fielder, he's getting older. He doesn't hustle out ground balls. He still plays a pretty good defense, but I'm saying as far as an overall player that you want for the next 10 years, I bet the Yankees are regretting paying A-Rod that kind of money. I mean, they still have years and years left on that contract, and do you run the risk of giving these guys contracts for 10 years and then not panning out? The last 4 years might just be average years.
Well, definitely. Well, I mean, Pujols has been very consistent every single year that he's been in St. Louis. So I would say, I mean, he's definitely worth it. But yet you have to look ahead. Say, well, yes, he does have the injury issues. But even despite that, he's still hitting 330 homers, 100 RBIs. Right. So definitely you have to look at his health concerns and say, okay, is he worth A-Rod money, or is he worth just slightly less? Because he's definitely worth over $100 million.
Quickly wrapping up this, would you rather have Pujols or Fielder if you had the choice to sign him in the offseason for 5 years, let's say?
Pujols playoff experience.
Pujols right on the money.
Fair enough. I think it's a close second though with Prince Fielder. I think he does hustle out ground balls. He's a lefty bat that sometimes teams are missing. So either way, let's move on now to the NFL. Do you guys think there'll be any team taking a chance on Terrell Owens? I know he's been in the news a lot lately.
He has been in the news a lot, but the only place that I logistically see him going is the Chicago Bears.
Really?
Yeah, and again, I know you're laughing about that, but here's my reason why is that Jay Cutler He doesn't have a go-to receiver. I mean, his leading receiver is his running back in Matt Forte, because you can't rely on Devin Hester. You can't rely on Johnny Knox. I mean, yes, Roy Williams is coming up slightly for you, but again, you can't depend on him because of his inconsistency.
Sanzenbacher?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you do have
developing, but not there.
Yeah, not there. I mean, I think maybe we can agree with this. I would love to see him in a Jets uniform, just to see how he could fare with, let's just say, like a Rex Ryan, or maybe like the diva-like Mark Sanchez.
Well, they need a quarterback before they can worry about wide receivers.
Yeah.
But
well, the thing is, I mean, with T.O., I mean, yes, you do get the baggage, but yet you get a lot of productivity out of him. He's one of the biggest, one of the most accurate guys that you can throw to. I think he could be a guy that Jay Cutler can actually go to when the game's on the line.
We're a sucker for comeback stories, aren't we, as Americans? I mean, really. I mean, we always want to give these guys a second chance, which is fine. But I think maybe we should give T.O. a second chance in this case. Maybe he has become older and wiser. He's been away from football now for the first few weeks of the NFL season, so maybe he's putting it in perspective now. Maybe he just wants to play football and not be such a diva.
And I never had a problem with Terrell Owens, especially being a diva. I thought it was great for football. I thought it was great because it was never at anybody's expense. Maybe with Chad Ochocinco, bring the spotlight on yourself. But T.O. always seemed to do it in a more inviting and less exclusive way, maybe. I don't know. I enjoyed watching him on the field and off the field too. The antics he would come up with. I thought when he backed up Tony Romo with that speech about his, that's his quarterback, and he teared up. I thought that as funny and maybe as entertaining as that was, I thought it really spoke to his character. Yeah. And I think the thing a lot of people don't realize about him is that he is a football player, and he's there because he doesn't want to not be successful. And yes, he's been away from the game, but. I mean, who wouldn't take a flyer on T.O. in all sincerity? Well, what would stop you from wanting him on your team? Yes, he brings a lot of baggage, but, I mean, let's be serious. The guy's a stud.
Yeah. I mean, there's not that much of a need for wide receiver around the league. I think that might be what's hurting him most. Yeah. But either way, if I was an NFL general manager right now and I had any sort of hole in my receiving core, why not? Give him a call. Or schedule him for a workout, something like that. Just at least take a look at him. It's worth taking that. So another NFL question, guys. If you're a fan of a winless team, would you root to lose for the chance to get Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck?
No, go ahead.
I would say absolutely. Especially, the Colts are looking at what happens when they don't have their quarterback this season. Yeah. Ouch. So they're going to need to replace Peyton Manning either right now or a couple years down the road. And what exactly else can you get out of the season? I think more so it's an applicable philosophy to have maybe than any other sport because the draft is so important for football. Mm-hmm. Guys come out of the draft and they immediately go into the starter roles. If they're that good, there's no development time. You can't really do this in baseball. Mm-hmm. It's not like the Nationals coming down the stretch when they were drafting Strasburg and Bryce Harper. Yeah. That's a little different because here you can see him step right onto the field later that spring. So yeah, why not? I mean, let's be serious. What else are the Dolphins going to take away from this season?
Are we overhyping him though? Because it seems like all the media is saying he's going to be the next big thing, but we've done this before. Ryan Leaf comes to mind. I mean, there are other quarterbacks that make big flops that, if you overhype them too much in college, Jamarcus Russell, another great example. So.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say you're definitely overhyping him, but I'm going to say no because I mean, what's the message that you're sending to a guy who hasn't even played a down in the NFL? Right. Plus, not only that, if you purposely lose, it deflates all the confidence in your quarterback. Say for Miami, Chad Henne was supposed to be the savior there. Now they're all making him lose. Well, what's that going to do to his confidence when he comes back next season? Right. The Rams, they're winless too, but they seem pretty happy with a Sam Bradford.
They got their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, they have their franchise quarterback. Then you look at the Colts. You don't know how long Peyton Manning is going to last. Besides, you don't even know how long he's going to be out with this injury as well. Yep. So definitely, well, I mean, I would say, if you want to purposely lose, go right ahead, but you're just going to deflate all the confidence that you have in your quarterback.
I mean, I'm not saying from a general manager's perspective you would try to lose, but I'm saying as a pure fan, if I'm sitting back at 0-6 right now.
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, and you need a quarterback like the Dolphins do.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, this guy could be your savior for the next 10, 12 years. Franchise quarterbacks don't come walking through that door very often. You can't just pick them off the free agents. We saw that the Vikings tried to do it with Donovan McNabb. See how that worked out. I mean, you can't just pick up a free agent quarterback. You have to draft, develop them, all that. So, anyways, it'll be very interesting to see how these teams end up. But we're going to take one more final timeout. On the other side, we'll talk about the BCS system in college football. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned.
I'm Mike Targonski, and I'm on VU TV.
We're Valpo
and we're on VUTV.
We're Bacchus Gamma, and we're on VUTV.
We're the Health Center, and we're on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jim, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Hooked on Tonics, and we're on VUTV.
I'm Brandon Spinner, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Lisa Meadows, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Women's Ultimate Frisbee, and we're on VUTV.
I'm Tristan Leonard, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Men's Ultimate Frisbee, and we're on VUTV.
Hi, my name is Nicole Graham. I'm an admission counselor here at Valpo, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Air Force ROTC, and we're on VUTV.
We're Mock Trial, and we're on VUTV.
I'm Connor Lott, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Nick Lindeke, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm President Heckler, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Jeff Lang, General Manager of WVUR, and I'm on VUTV.
We're the Career Center, and we're on VUTV.
Welcome back to Valpo Sports Night again, Matt and Jeff, for our final topic of discussion. The top 6 college football teams this year are all undefeated. How do you sort this out, and is it time for a change in the current bowl system?
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'll let you go first on this one.
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of an outside perspective. Everybody talks about, how to fix the BCS or how to determine a true champion in college football. I don't really think that's what people want. I don't think that's what people watch the game for. Nobody cares about the national championship from a fan's point. Players, coaches, they want to play for that kind of stuff. But think about the bowl system. I'm talking about, not even, the actual BCS bowls, but there's other, not necessarily the Alamo Bowl or the New Mexico Bowl, but there's a lot of games out there. And for each market or for each fan base, that's their own little national championship game. Think about when Wisconsin went to the Rose Bowl against TCU. Wasn't a national championship game at all. But you wouldn't be able to tell from the people that were there. They loved it. Yeah. And from a fan's perspective, you get some closure on the season if you get to play out in a bowl game. Think about it from an economic perspective. Would you rather have that playoff system where, the top 8, these 6 teams maybe battle it out? Or would you rather have the entire country involved? And, think about all the dollars, again, as the business director of the radio station, thinking in terms of dollars and cents about how each, the travel, the food, the lodging, things like that, for 40 or 50 different games, which means 100 teams and however many fan bases.
I like what you're saying, and I want to keep the bowls, but it doesn't mean that there can't be, let's say, a 6-game playoff is what I've envisioned. Top 2 teams get buys, and you work it through that way. And then you still have your papajohns.com bowl and your autotrader.com bowl, and you still have that revenue coming in, because those games don't mean anything anyways, really, in the grand scheme of things.
No, they don't.
But you still get the revenue, you still get the marketing, all that, but then you still have a 6-team playoff or something. You can't really complain about not being in that top 6 teams, because then you chose your own fate. If you don't slip into the top 2, you could still be undefeated, and then you can have a gripe.
Yeah, not only that, but that's why I'm not a fan of the playoff system, because now you're going to give Boise State something else to complain about. because not only are they complaining about their schedule, saying, oh, we're undefeated. Well, 1, it's called move to a better conference, and 2, have a better non-conference schedule. Yeah. Because now you're not getting them complaining about their schedule. If you implement this playoff system, now you're going to get them complaining about, oh, we should be the number 1 seed and everything like that. That's why I think you have to keep the bowls. Also with the playoff system, you're talking about cutting the season short. Because, or either cutting the season short or actually, from another perspective, adding more games.
Okay.
Because I can see it from the other standpoint that you want to try and see all these number 1 picks that are on these other teams. But what if the number 1 pick wasn't in the playoff system, in that playoff?
Right.
So now you're not going to be able to get to see him. Besides, I don't know if you agree with this, but who wants to see Boise State in the national championship game?
Yeah.
You definitely want to see, say like a Michigan USC game or that type of game. Pick 2 big schools and have them to duke it out.
I know revenue's an issue, but right now I think there's too much pressure on each individual regular season game. I'm going to use the Badgers as an example, because they always schedule 3 cupcakes at the beginning of the year. But can you really blame them, because they want to get those wins? If they lose in the first 3 games, they're automatically out of it. Automatically. You have no chance to come back after that. So if you have a system where there's maybe the top 6 teams, you schedule that game at Oregon or something early on, and then you create more revenue that way early season, instead of playing Appalachian State or the crap teams that bigger schools play early on. You play tougher teams, and you make that schedules tougher. Then you can get more money in that way, instead of just having it all if you lose one game, you're done. I mean, you really are. The Badgers lost to Michigan State last weekend. They're done.
Well, that's then you make the case for Boise State. They're undefeated. If they lose one game in their conference, their season's over with because they're not even going to get back into the top 25.
Right, but they're in a lesser conference than one of the power conferences like the Big Ten, Pac-12, those type of things. I think Boise State then would schedule more tougher non-conference opponents then if they went to a playoff system because there wouldn't be so much pressure on them winning every single regular season game. It just, to me, it makes sense. I can't believe that we're deciding a champion. We're just picking 2 teams at random. There's 6 undefeated teams. We didn't even address the fact which teams are going to go. If the season ended today, how do you decide that? Computers? I mean, that's what they're doing now.
Well, if you look for next week, LSU and Alabama are going. They're 1-2, so one of them is going to be gone too.
But let's say you get an overtime game like next week in that matchup. How do you fault the team that loses?
Exactly, right.
I mean, how do you say, see you later, good luck next year? How do you do that? I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
Even with the Badgers, they lost on that, miracle pass in the end zone at the end of the game. They played Michigan State for 4 quarters and lost on the last play. Michigan State, good team last year, good team this year. Kind of no fault of their own situation for Wisconsin, but absolutely right. They're out of the conversation. They were hardly in it in the start, and now that they've lost, that's just one more reason to get them out of there.
And I'm a pretty hardcore Badger fan, and a lot of people are hardcore fans of their teams. But I'm saying, as a casual fan perspective, if you're out of it, if in your mind you think you cannot win a national championship, those guys are going to tune out. I mean, they're going to stop watching the games. They're going to stop paying to see the games. So it affects every part of the regular season when it's like this and not a great postseason like it should be in my mind. But either way, we're going to wrap things up with that point. I want to thank Jeff Larson, sports broadcaster for WVUR, and Matt Barnard, business director at WVUR. I'm Drew Taylor. I want to thank you for watching. Tune in next week for an all-new Valpo Sports Night.